Your dog tells you something through their postures, sounds, and behaviors, but 9 out of 10 people simply don't notice. I continue analyzing the strangest habits of dogs, and at the end I will answer the question in the title. Dogs use their tongues not only to eat, but also as a form of communication. In their world, it is one of the most direct ways to establish contact. When a dog licks you, they are not just tasting you, but truly interacting with you. Sometimes it all starts when they are puppies. Little puppies lick their mother's snout to show dependence and get her attention. Over time, this behavior doesn't disappear. It simply transfers to humans. Furthermore, a dog can read your state through your skin and scent. They understand if you are calm or under stress. In those moments, licking becomes a way to calm you down or divert your attention. Sometimes it seems like a request for a reaction, a light touch with the tongue, and you are already distracted, looking at them and making contact. And of course, there is the simplest reason. You might just smell good. Dogs become very attached to people and see them as the main reference point in their lives. When you leave, to them, it's not just they went out for a while, but a situation where the control center disappears. The house or apartment remains the same, but without you, it becomes less understandable and predictable. Howling in this case is an attempt to reestablish the bond as an "I'm here" signal. Additionally, dogs do not tolerate sudden silence and a lack of stimuli well. When the house is empty, the usual sounds, movements, and smells disappear. For a human, this is normal, but for a dog, it is a drastic change in the environment. This state can cause anxiety, and howling becomes a way to vent. There is a deeper level, instinct. In dogs' ancestors, howling was used as a form of long-distance communication when the pack separated. It is a signal that helps find their own, and when a dog is left alone, that same mechanism can be triggered, even if they live in a city apartment. Human behavior also heavily influences this. If you make a drama out of it before leaving, say goodbye, talk to them, and show emotions, the dog perceives the moment as something monumental. The tension increases, and after your departure, it is harder for them to calm down. The sudden increase in alone time also plays a role. If the dog wasn't gradually accustomed to being alone, but is suddenly left for a long time, their reaction will be stronger and it can become a habit. That is why it is important to form a model of calmness. Leave without making a big deal out of it. Gradually increase the time of absence and leave them activities, toys, or treats. Even a background sound like the TV makes the space feel less empty. The state prior to leaving also matters. If the dog has already gone for a walk, is a bit tired, and in a calm state, they will handle solitude better than if they have excess energy. Research shows that the position at your feet gives the dog a sense of control. By being there, they stay close to you. They feel your warmth, movement, and breathing, but at the same time, they have a broader view of the surrounding space. It is like a strategic position. They can rest and, if necessary, react quickly. Secondly, it is a balance between closeness and personal space. Dogs don't always want to be glued to you. The feet are the ideal place. They are close, but there is no pressure. They can stretch out peacefully, change posture, or move away if something distracts them. There is another point. Dogs memorize states of comfort. If they once lay at your feet and felt calm, warm, and safe, that is reinforced, and the next time they will go there consciously. Some dogs even occupy the same spot every night, not by chance, but because for them it is a proven point of trust. When a dog suddenly stops and starts staring at a single point, it looks very strange, as if they had frozen or seen something supernatural. But it is not a coincidence or an oddity. It is an attempt to process a signal that you simply do not perceive. In those moments, it is most common for their hearing to be activated. The dog catches a sound that is too faint for a human or is outside the audible frequency range. Footsteps behind the wall, movement in the hallway, the running of a household appliance. They stay still to concentrate and understand where it is coming from. It can also be a visual stimulus, the movement of a shadow, a reflection on the glass, or fluctuations in light. For a person, this is almost imperceptible. For the dog, it is already an object of observation. A state of, there is something there, but what is it, arises. If the dog is tense or alert, it is important for them to control the space. Staying still is a way to pay maximum attention and not miss anything important. Sometimes it is much simpler. The dog is just trying to understand if it is worth reacting. Sometimes it seems like the dog hears everything. As soon as the refrigerator opens or you grab the leash, they are already there. But just say, come or no, and suddenly they stop noticing you. They simply look away, stand still, or start sniffing the ground intensely. It gives the impression that they are pretending not to hear on purpose, and in a sense, that is true. Dogs know how to choose what to react to, especially if they know the command won't bring them anything interesting. For example, if come means the end of the walk or drop it means being denied a tasty find, the dog may decide that at that moment it is more advantageous not to hear. It is not stubbornness or malice. It is associative memory working well. Furthermore, dogs quickly read our mood. If the command is given with an irritated voice, with tension, or without confidence, they may ignore it simply because they do not feel you are a leader at that moment. Sometimes deafness is a way of testing boundaries. The dog observes what happens if they do not obey, and if the reaction is weak or confusing, it means they can try again. Often in those moments, it is about their emotional state. The dog may be tired, overwhelmed, or simply not in the mood for contact. Just like a human, they do not always want interaction, even if they generally like attention. Sometimes it has to do with the place or the situation. During meals, sleep, or when they are busy with something, physical contact is perceived differently. In those moments, control over what is happening is more important to them than contact. There is a more subtle point. Dogs feel exactly how they are touched. A sudden movement, a tense hand, or overly active petting can be perceived as pressure rather than calm contact. Sometimes the cause is the accumulation of emotions. If the dog is petted or touched too often without being allowed to break contact, at some point they will start to pull away, not because they do not like the person, but because they need space. Dogs sometimes behave in a way that is difficult to explain logically, and this is one of the clearest examples. Suddenly, for no apparent reason, they run through the house as if they were switched on. But this has a clear explanation. Energy in dogs accumulates unevenly. During the day, it can be pent up, especially if there was little activity. And at some point, a sudden release occurs. The body simply lets go. Often this coincides with transitions. After eating, after a walk, or before sleeping. The body seems to close one stage and move on to another, generating a brief and sudden burst of activity. At that moment, movements become chaotic. The dog runs in circles, changes direction abruptly, jumps, or slides across the floor. It is not goal-oriented behavior. It is purely a release process. Emotions also play a role. Joy, excitement, internal tension. All of this builds up and comes out through movement. In those seconds, the dog does not think or analyze. They just release the accumulated energy. And importantly, this behavior has a name. It is called zoomies. If the dog is healthy, active, and calms down quickly after the outburst, it is absolutely normal. It means their body is functioning as it should. If the food is always the same for a long time, they might simply get bored of it. The smell becomes routine, and the dog loses interest, even if they are physically hungry. Sometimes the reason is different. If the dog has received something tastier, like table scraps, treats, or tasty morsels, their normal food starts to lose the competition. A simple logic forms in their head. They can wait to get something better. Mood also plays a role. If the dog is tired, overwhelmed, or stressed, their appetite may decrease. They are not rejecting the food forever. They simply do not have an internal need for food at that moment. There is a more subtle point. Dogs sense freshness and smell much more than humans do. If the food has been sitting out for a long time, its smell has changed, or it simply doesn't seem right to them, they may reject it. Recently, it has been noted that in many dogs, this behavior is reinforced. If rejecting the food once resulted in them being given something tastier, they might repeat it again. Dogs usually sniff each other calmly at first, and everything seems normal, but sometimes after that, one of them changes abruptly. They may tense up, growl, or even lunge. From the outside, it seems unexpected, as if something had suddenly changed. The fact is that sniffing is not just a greeting, it is a way of gathering information. In a few seconds, a dog reads the other's state, whether they are calm, tense, confident, or conversely, scared. And after this, they make a decision on how to behave. Sometimes the problem lies in the signals. One dog may be too invasive, move abruptly, or ignore personal space. To the other, this feels like pressure, and they respond more harshly. There is also a mismatch in moods. One dog wants contact and the other does not. When their states do not match, tension arises that quickly turns into a reaction. There is the scent factor. Through it, dogs can understand if the other is sick, stressed, or behaving unstably. This can cause distrust or even aggression. Recently, it has been understood that these reactions do not happen for no reason. There are always prior signals: a tense body, freezing, the gaze, or the position of the tail. It's just that humans do not always notice them. In reality, for him, it's not just a stain on the sidewalk, but an entire information portal. Dogs perceive the world through their noses. Every trail, drop, or even lingering scent carries a vast amount of data. Who was here? How old are they? Are they healthy or sick? Are they aggressive or scared? For a dog, it's like reading the news but through smells. Some places are especially saturated with scents. For example, the corner of a house, a pole, or a patch of dirt where other dogs regularly mark their territory. Each new user adds their mark, and the dog is compelled to analyze the layers of information like an archaeologist at an excavation site. Sometimes he stays longer if someone familiar or suspicious passed by. It's no longer just interest, it's analysis. Is it worth leaving a reply? Is there a threat? Is it necessary to mark the territory? When a dog scratches the dirt, he isn't just moving it around. He is leaving his scent. It's a way of telling others, I was here. Sometimes this is done very actively. The dog might kick up dirt, grass, or even snow. It's no coincidence, it's a reinforcement of the signal. The more visible the action, the stronger the information is for other dogs. There is another aspect. The process of going to the bathroom is a vulnerable state for a dog. Afterward, he needs to compose himself, regain control, and release tension. Scratching the dirt in this case helps him disconnect quickly. There is also a behavioral component. Some dogs do it more often if they smell other animals or are in a new place. Then it's no longer just a habit, but a reaction to the environment. You've probably noticed it. Your dog stares at you and whines softly, without barking, without making a fuss. He just sits there and seems to be waiting for something. It might seem strange, but in reality, this behavior has a simple explanation. Dogs communicate differently than humans. For them, a look is already a signal, and sound only reinforces it. When he looks directly at you and adds that soft whine, it's as if he is connecting with you and trying to get your attention. Most of the time, it has to do with something simple. He might want to walk, food, or just some physical contact, but instead of jumping or barking, he chooses a gentler approach, quietly waiting for a reaction. This is especially noticeable when you are busy on your phone, at the computer, or talking. At some point, he starts giving the signal softly. He isn't demanding. It's as if he's asking, pay attention to me. Sometimes it's not about a specific desire. A state of boredom, waiting, or slight tension has simply built up, and it comes out this way through his gaze and sound. If your dog stops and simply sits down at the first drops of rain, don't be surprised. This behavior seems strange only at first glance, but it has a logical explanation. Rain causes a dog not only the sensation of being wet, but also sensory discomfort, especially in short-haired dogs or those with sensitive skin. Drops falling on their ears, nose, or back can cause irritation, as if something were constantly tickling or bothering them. This can lead to a natural desire to stop and wait. Furthermore, in many dogs, it triggers an instinct for caution. In nature, rain is usually associated with a change in the environment. Scents are washed away, the ground becomes slippery, and it's unclear what is happening around them. For some dogs, it's a signal to stay still, sit, and observe, especially if there is no shelter nearby. Sometimes the reason is simpler. The dog just doesn't want to walk in the rain. He is cold, wet, uncomfortable, and communicates this in the most direct way possible. This behavior is more common in small breeds and in dogs that are very accustomed to the comforts of home. At that moment, it seems like he is just being stubborn or is frozen up, but in reality, everything happens for an understandable reason. Dogs don't perceive a walk as just a path, but as a flow of information. As they walk, they are constantly reading the space, scents, trails, and changes. And at some point, a signal appears that is more important to him than anything else. A fresh trail, another scent, something new, and he immediately tunes everything else out. To a human, this is invisible. You are walking down the same path and nothing has changed. But for him, the situation is completely different. It's as if something that cannot be ignored suddenly appeared in a specific spot. In those moments, the dog isn't thinking about the route. He follows the sensation that arose in that instant. And he does so with certainty because to him, it's more important than the direction you chose. If you look closely, it's not chaotic behavior. He isn't pulling in just any direction. He is reacting to a specific signal that you simply cannot sense. You have surely noticed that your dog wakes up, sees you, and immediately stretches. Front legs forward, back end slightly raised, and sometimes a yawn. It seems like a common stretch, but in reality, it's not just to warm up the muscles. Dogs don't do it by chance. Stretching is part of their language. In that posture, it's as if they are showing, I'm calm, everything is fine, we can interact. It's a gentle, soundless signal that sets the tone for contact. At the same time, the body actually activates. After sleeping, the muscles are less active, and that movement helps them quickly return to normal. But an important point, when exactly does it happen? It is often right when they see you, and at that moment, not only the body, but also the emotions are activated. The dog seems to come alive. They were in their own world, and suddenly they are already in contact with you. You can notice it in the details. They look at you, approach, and stretch right in front of you, not somewhere else, as if doing it just for you. In the end, it seems like a simple movement, but for them, it's the way to initiate interaction. It's not just a stretch, it's their way of saying hello. If these revelations about your dog's behavior have changed the way you observe them every day, make sure to subscribe and like the channel. We are deciphering the secret language that animals have been trying to communicate to us for centuries. Protect that special bond and cultivate their well-being. The next discovery about the canine world will be revealed very soon.